know what really makes us mad? Is wasting money on CDs with only one or two good songs.
Yeah. Tell them about punk.
What's up, posers? Welcome to punklottopod. I'm your co-host, Justin Hensley.
I'm your other co-host, Dylan Hensley.
And this is the show where we choose 1 year at random and select one punk, hardcore, emo, or punk-adjacent album from that year to discuss. As usual, you can follow us on all forms of social media at punklottopod, at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Should we get on Blue Sky? Blue Sky is like the next new one that people are talking about. Since Twitter actually seems to be dying for real now.
What is Blue Sky?
Supposedly it's a very Twitter-esque website, just run by a different millionaire.
But it works. It actually works.
I don't know. I've not tried it.
Because Mastodon was supposed to be like Twitter, and it literally was broken.
What was the other one?
Did not
Hive?
work. The one that you have to like install a server or something. Like,
yeah.
It was like, I'm not doing any coding to use Twitter with less people on it.
If you want Twitter
Blue
with less...
Sky sounds like a conservative free speech platform.
No, that's what's
that
the
one?
Trump one? It's the one that he's not allowed to go back to Twitter or else he'll get sued because he's like a major like investor.
Truth Social.
Truth, yeah. Yeah.
He wants to leave it.
He wants to leave it so bad. But no, I haven't looked at it. I just heard somebody talking about it on a podcast because they gave up on Twitter finally, for real. Twitter is actually getting worse as far as like searching. Did you notice that lately?
Yeah.
You can't search just phrases or tags anymore. It's only like you can, but it won't suggest them to you when you're searching. Now it's only suggesting profiles. Yeah, that's real annoying there.
It is very broken. I rarely look at even my own account anymore. Like I look at the band account sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't hardly follow anyone, so I'm just like, yeah, this is not interesting.
Yeah, there's that. If you join our Patreon, you get access to our Discord where you can join in with us chatting about music and podcasts and food and what else have we talked about in that group?
Our pets.
Yeah.
Our hobbies. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a fun group of people we've got in there. So if you want to join that, if you join at the $1 tier, you get access to it. I'll send you a link to it, or you can do the actual like direct linking thing through the website. It's annoying because it doesn't work really through the app. You have to use it through the actual website. Patreon is kind of janky. I don't know if you've ever tried to use it, but the app, I guess more of the app is not nearly as functional as the website is. But with that, you get access to all of our weekly bonus audio. Our most recent one was an I'm Listening, where Dylan and I talked about the albums that we listened to over the last month or so. And you'll get access to all sorts of extra bonus content. New Release Friday will make its return once I get to my permanent work schedule, and any other extra audio content we come up with. We've also got Moon Pies for Misfits, the video series where I try out some drinks. And there's some written stuff there as well. All sorts of stuff. Patreon.com/punklottopod, $1. And if you join the $10 tier, it's a one-time $10 charge, and you get to choose the album that we talk about on the show. So if you're interested in that, head on over there. And lastly, email address punklottopod@gmail.com, and our voicemail line 202-688-PUNK. All the plugs out of the way. You got to plug them first or no one will listen. Today.
It's going to be the day. They're going to put it back to you.
This week's episode is... I made the selection, technically.
And then I told you what you should pick. And then you did pick it.
Yeah, so this was a case of Dylan did 2 in a row, and I guess it was going to be my turn to do a second one in a row. I think it just kind of came out that way. We were like, let's look at 83. Are there some anniversary albums that year? And we're like, 40's a weird anniversary. 30's less weird than 40, I think, as far as like album anniversaries, even though it should just be just as weird because isn't like 25 like really the. But I think I care more about a 20 and a 30th anniversary than I do a 25th anniversary.
What about birthdays? If you think about it like birthdays, why is 25 because it's a quarter of a century. Okay. But in terms of like what's a more impressive birthday, 25 or 30. 25 is just your mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
30 is a whole decade. It's a whole other decade.
Yeah, I think that's why 30 is more impressive than 25, because 21 is the big 20 birthday, because it's like, yeah, you're old enough to drink, because 20 is not even really that big of it. 20's a mild big deal, because you're like, now you're 20, but then the next year is when you get to party legally, I guess. Dylan and I were nerds and didn't drink until we were much older. Being straight edge for too long.
I did drink illegally.
Yeah.
I can say that.
I cannot.
I did underage drink. Like barely. It
like
was
you were 20.
Like sips. And I was 20. I did underage drink in a bar, and I did underage drink, or maybe not underage. I might have been of age, but it was still a dry campus. So I did drink a tiny bit of vodka in my college dorm. So I'm a normal person who's like you guys. I also underage drank and partied hard. And wasn't a weird straight edge nerd. No offense to the straight edge people listening to our show, or people who practice their sobriety. It's a good thing.
Yeah. No, we were straight edge because we were scared weenies.
Yeah.
Not because we were like morally opposed to it, or are trying to remain abstain from it. We were just like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble, or I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what we were afraid of.
I'll lose control.
Growing up in a Baptist church where the preacher is constantly talking about how he'd never had a sip of Bud Dummer in his life. And then parents who didn't drink. And
anyway,
weird tangent. Start this episode. How did we get here? Oh yeah, we're talking about birthdays. Anyway,
today's episode brought to you by Dos Hombres Mezcal by Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston.
All that to say is we didn't find anything interesting at 40, or we didn't even look. We did look, but it wasn't even like really that exciting. So that means when that year hits 50, you're gonna be like, man, nothing. Turns out 83 was not a great year. So we were like, okay, what's the last 80s year we've covered and the longest amount of time? And that is 1981. The last time we talked about 1981, it was episode 168, where we talked about X's Wild Gift with Ian Miller of Kowloon Walled City, as well as a million other bands. And that was January of 2022. The second time we covered X. Before that is a long time too. Episode 74, we did Echo and the Bunnymen's Heaven Up Here, as well as Government Issues Legless Bull. And we did that with Taylor from Diversified DIY. And that was in February of 2020. So we skipped all of 2021 when they came to 81 albums.
We have not talked about 81 very.
We also did at episode 49, The Stranglers, The Gospel According to the Men in Black, as well as 7 Seconds, Socially Fucked Up, which is like a demo. We did that with Josh Robbins of Spinning Out podcast fame, where he asked us, do these guys hate me?
Yeah.
Whenever we made him listen to a Stranglers record.
We made him listen to a bad Stranglers record. And then he let us come on his show and talk about a great record that we love.
Yeah.
And we haven't had him back. We really should fix that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so 1981, we actually did a full-ass chart dive over on the Patreon where we talked about all the albums that came out in 81, with the exception of a couple that we specifically held off on because we knew we were going to talk about them here a little bit. So I had a couple options, I guess. My picks for 1981, though, weren't... I don't know. This was one where I was like, I didn't have a ton that I was like, I could do that one, or I could do that one, or that one. Like, there's stuff I definitely would have liked, but I made my decision fairly quickly. And I was trying to see if I had any maybes or almosts that I was thinking about.
Yeah, I don't remember you sending me anything, did you?
You know what? Now that I'm looking at it, I don't know that I did.
Probably because I went and looked at the charts and I was looking at the albums and I'm like, hey, what are the EPs from this year? Early 80s could be substantial EPs. And so then I think I immediately told you, like, hey, that EP that we're talking about came out that year. And there's 2 Minor Threat EPs.
Yeah, I remember that. I looked at it because these images are very familiar, but I was just like, let's do the one. So we avoided talking about some of these on our chart dive, but I think I even said on there's one that I want to talk about because why the fuck is it number 1?
Yes, I think you said you call bullshit on it.
It is This Heat and their album Deceit. What the fuck is this shit? Number 1 punk album of 1981? No, it's fucking not. Shut up, liars. Who is this for? Experimental rock, post-punk, avant-prog, tape music, industrial, krautrock sound collage. Sounds like horse shit to me. I think I've listened to this album or part of it, and I was like, this is terrible. Why is it so highly rated? And it's purely because weird nerds love weird nerd music that nobody else actually likes.
If you're not familiar with This Heat,
no one is.
Fans also like Glenn Branca, Pure Ubu, which, all right, first couple Pure Ubu records.
Pure Ubu, yeah.
Right. Chrome, depends on the material. And Swell Maps, again, depends on what it is. Kind of hit or miss. It's that kind of guy's music. People who listen to The Residents, early industrial fans.
Yeah.
Krautrock fans.
Krautrock fans. I really like Can.
I like some Can and some Noi, but not whole albums.
You want to listen to some Amandul too? Yeah. This is a krautrock pick. It's really what it is. It's the type of guy who listens to krautrock and sound collages voting on this one. Huh? Tape
music.
Yeah.
Listening to Basinski and Steve Reich. Extremely experimental stuff that is not pleasant to listen to.
I'm genuinely shocked that more people have rated that album than the number 2 pick, which is The Cure's Faith. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's right there.
And like we talked about this on the Patreon, we're not even like the biggest like early Cure fans, but come on, this definitely got to be better than that record.
I mean, it's at least The Cure,
right? Super famous band.
Which did I send you the Trader Joe's manager outfit wearing Vacation Uncle Robert Smith clip on TikTok? It's like someone like seeing him in like a hotel lobby and like taking pictures with him, and he's wearing just like a Hawaiian shirt and like cargo shorts. And he's just like super disheveled hair, just the way he looks, the way he does his hair and makeup now all the time. It's really funny looking. Funny image of him.
So I think what should really be number 1 is probably the number 3 pick, and is Damaged by Black Flag. Ride the pole! Ride the pole! We're gonna ride the pole! More people have heard in the world, not just users this website, in the world, maybe more people have heard that Cure record, but I don't think so. I think more people have heard this Black Flag record than that Cure record. Later Cure records, yes, not The Faith. I think Damaged is more well-known, more important to the growth of music, more discussed, better regarded.
It's a 1001 albums you should hear before you die record.
Right. And The Faith is not the Cure album that's in that book. There's probably like 4 Cure albums in that book too, but
or versions of that book. It's been updated a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah. Damaged, you gotta hear. Faith, you'd be like, I'll give you a different one. Let me find you a better one. But yeah, Damaged. The LP. Like, right? Because there's no other LPs prior? Or no, like...
Yeah, Damaged is the first album, and it is the one that is probably... Yeah, it's probably the most widely regarded.
Yeah.
I mean, people love My War.
Yeah.
It's about half great.
Do they love it, though?
People like to say that they love My War.
People like the t-shirts of My War. It's the best one on a t-shirt. It's not just bars and...
Yeah. But the Everything Went Black makes a good shirt. The shears.
Yeah. Yeah, Damaged is
I'm not wearing a Slip It In shirt.
Oh, God, no. Damaged is like half re-recorded versions of old songs and half like stuff that was new for Henry to sing. Is this also the first time that we're introduced to Greg Ginn noodling like extensively?
It's the worst part of Damaged. Yeah, I think it might actually be, because I feel like all of the singles EP stuff prior, there's nothing.
Well, there wasn't any room because they're on 7 inches.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first inclinations to what Greg Ginn is gonna want to keep doing going forward. Unfortunately,
but it's a great record. It's a great record. I love Henry's vocals. I'm still Henry's the best Black Flag vocalist, even though he is the vocalist in the worst Black Flag material. It's not his fault.
No. He would have wanted to do the other stuff more.
But I think he largely improves, or at least stands on his own on the pre-existing material. Like, there's definitely songs on there where it's like they're different enough takes that it's worth hearing the other vocalists' versions of them. But yeah, then the stuff that's original to him, or it's his first, hasn't been recorded by anyone else before, is great too, for the most part on that record. I think it's a really good record. Definitely a primer record for punk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
You Give Your Teenage Brother. Have we made our brother listen to that one?
I don't know. I don't know
that assignment.
It is what do they call it? Standard issue punk. It's like the stuff that you're given whenever you first are getting into punk and hardcore in the US specifically. You're just like, all right, here's the Ramones, like one of the first 3 Ramones records. Here's the Sex Pistols. Here's London Calling. Here's Damaged. Yeah, it's all the stuff that you're supposed to. Here's the Misfits. Here's the stuff you're supposed to listen to really be able to call yourself punks with an X.
Yeah, so that you can claim you always were one.
Yeah, so you don't come off like a poser. 1981 is also the year of the best Susie and the Banshees record, Juju. Right, it's the best.
Pretty far up there.
I think we agreed on that, on their best worst over under. I don't think Ann did. I think she went with the first record.
Did I say Juju was the best?
Maybe.
Or did I go Kiss in the Dream House?
That's weird if you did. I don't remember. Go check that episode out. That was a really fun one. We need to do more best worst over unders. They're just really hard, I think, to prepare for, because you have to listen to an entire discography of an artist. And Dylan and I proved that's very difficult to do with our Challengeography series.
Yeah. I want to bring that back. That might be something I do with TikTok. I keep thinking about doing TikTok stuff.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to be the punklottopod presence on TikTok, go for it. The handle's open.
I don't want to log it. I don't want to change accounts. If I do stuff on TikTok, personal stuff, Punk Lotto stuff, band stuff, it's all going to be under Husker Dylan. Go follow Husker Dylan on TikTok. I've made literally none.
But if one day you decide to do it,
if I finally can get up the nerve to do it, I literally talk on a podcast every week, so I should be able to do it. It should not be hard. It's the editing I don't want to do, is the editing.
Yeah. And as someone who went to school for video production, I've never edited anything on TikTok because it looks really annoying. It just looks like a very awkward process, because you have to kind of do it in real time, right? I don't know.
It looks
yes. I'd much rather do it on just get DaVinci Resolve and use it there.
I think you have to do everything. I think it's you almost have to use CapCut.
You have to build it sequentially, I think, too.
Yeah.
Whereas with the other thing, other stuff, you could just do a timeline. Anyway, Juju, Susie and the Banshees, absolutely amazing record. We talked about that album extensively on that episode. One of our top 10 most listened episodes. And deservedly so, I think.
Yeah.
Also in our top 10 is the brackets. I have 2 brackets in our top 10. Weird gimmick episodes are in our top 10. A lot. Mostly. Fitting with the tone of the actual album we're talking about today, it is Youth of America by Wipers. This is an EP, but I guess it's 30 minutes long, so you can put it on the. I think they consider it an EP, or is it?
Yeah, there's a 6-minute song and a 10-minute song, so it's 6 songs though. But yeah, it is. I mean, that's the thing is it's 6 songs, but it's like 3 minutes shorter than the first album, which has like 12 songs on it or something. So
where does this one fit for you in the trio of the first 3 Wipers albums?
It's my 3rd favorite. It's the one I reach for the least of the first 3.
That's what I thought too. But apparently the psychos on this website said it's their best
because there's a 10-minute song. It's krautrock guys who go, "Oh, Youth of America is so krautrock."
It's also the most listened to, or rated rather, not most listened to. I bet if you went to their Spotify and Last.fm's, it would be the 3rd most listened to thing they did. But weirdos. But yeah, Wipers in 1981. Did anybody actually care? They were still pretty obscure by that point, right?
They're still very mysterious.
Local Washington.
Because Greg
band.
didn't want to do anything. Greg Disage didn't want to play shows. He wanted to put out like 7 albums and play 0 shows. Something insane. Pacific Northwest, so already like super isolated, and putting these records out through Park Avenue. Park Avenue put out Wipers and Visible Targets, and that's literally it. There is, I want to say, Psycho also put out a copy of Youth of America in the same year in the UK. So it's possible they made more of an impact in the UK at the very beginning than they did in the US. I don't know. That might have been imported a little bit later. That 81 date seems questionable. Yeah, very obscure. Not associated with anything. Not really playing shows. I think they were playing shows because I think the other guys in the band were like, "No, Greg, we have to play shows." Literally no one will care.
But being a US post-punk band, rarefied air. There were not a lot of them, at least at this point, because most of the post-punk bands that were really super well known were UK bands, such as New Order, who released Movement. Which is that the first New Order record?
That is.
Yeah. I know I've listened to it. I don't really remember it very well, though. I know it sounds like New Order is like the big takeaway. It's like it sounds like New Order, but it doesn't have like the smash hits or like the massively hooky material.
Yeah, it's not the most singlesy.
Mm-hmm.
They're singles. The non-album singles were the singlesy stuff from this time period.
England and their non-album singles.
Yeah. They the main takeaway from Movement is that it doesn't sound like Joy Division.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, well, this is not Joy Division." And if you're me, that's, "Oh, good, this doesn't sound like Joy Division."
Listen, no disrespect to Joy Division, but I'm going to pick New Order over them every single time.
Every single time. Every New Order record.
Even the ones I haven't heard.
Like, I've heard Waiting for the Siren's Call, the 2005 record, and it's good. People are wrong. I haven't listened to Lost Sirens. It's the other really low-rated one. What else?
Keeping our post-punk train rolling, you got a couple things worth mentioning. Bauhaus released Mask. I don't think I've ever listened to a single Bauhaus record in its entirety. I may have started one, but I didn't finish it.
Nothing by Bauhaus I've ever heard has made me want to.
I like the song Bela Lugosi's Dead.
Yeah, it's all right.
Is there a Bauhaus song on the Crow soundtrack? Maybe not. I don't know. Public Image Limited, The Flowers of Romance. Whatever. I did hear a very funny story involving our record today about Public Image Limited, though. How it was one of their last shows and they wouldn't... the Public Image Limited wouldn't let the band use the PA, the same PA, and rushed them off the stage before they finished. Very weird. We'll get into that later. Birthday Party. Does anybody actually care about the Birthday Party? I know it's the Nick Cave origination, but I feel like him solo is far more regarded than the Birthday Party ever was. By Gang of Four Solid Gold, that's the second LP, correct? Yes, it is.
Second album.
Could I be happy with something else? I need something to fill my time.
And probably one of the bigger influences on our album today. You know, I don't know My Gang of Four very well at all. I know they're good, and what I've heard I've enjoyed. I definitely listen to Entertainment, but I can't say that I've listened to this album even.
Solid Gold is great. Songs with the Free is great. Hard is not as bad as people say it is, but it's not great. Of course, the self-titled EP is great. People love the Peel sessions.
Yeah, kind of scanning through 81, I'm like, there's good stuff, but it's like I could have talked about Only a Lad by Oingo Boingo, but I feel like I've talked about that album a bunch in the past, so it's probably not worth doing a whole episode on.
You don't want to dig into the possibly questionable politics of Danny Elfman?
No, capitalism.
I don't think capitalism's that bad.
That's a comedy song. That's a tongue-in-cheek song. Look, we all know Danny Elfman loves money, or else he wouldn't have done all of those movie soundtracks his entire career.
You could, well, I'm sure he lived comfortably, for sure. You could argue that he took all of those soundtrack gigs because how else is he going to play with obscure percussion?
Yeah.
He's just like super into weird percussion. I gotta feed my hunger for these instruments no one's ever heard of. What better place to use them than the whimsical soundtrack work suited to also questionable politics filmmakers?
The one record that I was like, that might be the other one that I would go to, and it is The Punchline by Minutemen.
With your beginnings, when I get that feeling.
Short, 13-minute album or something like that? 14 minutes long, yet it is 18 tracks. The first Minutemen LP. It's incredible. It's so good. I just don't know that we'd be able to stretch a 14-minute album for an entire episode, though I guess we picked something that's 20 minutes long.
But we'll get into it. Well, one of my top picks, considerations, if I were choosing for this episode, would be Business as Usual by Men at Work. Because it kicks ass.
Isn't that cover normally yellow?
Yeah, originally it was black and white, but they imported it in yellow.
Because Americans won't buy anything in black and white.
Yeah.
You know what? That would have been a fun one. Who Can It Be Now? Down Under?
Be Good Johnny. Be good, be good.
Be good, be good. Yeah, that actually would be a really fun one. Do you own that one?
It's a fun-ass record. I do.
I don't own one. I've seen it. It's like a dollar bin record.
Oh, yeah. That's why you don't own it.
Maybe it's because you're like, is it bad? Or they're just all scratched the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine was like an actually good, like listenable dollar copy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'll buy that. I like the singles from that. And then I listened to it. I was like, this is so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been a good one to cover.
Is it punk? Questionable.
Yeah.
Or I'll throw this out there. I would have been interested in maybe like really having a reason to dig into Pleasant Dreams by Ramones.
Pleasant Dreams, what number were they at this point? 5?
Album 5, 4, 6? Not 4. 6. Because End of the Century is 5.
Yeah.
Pleasant Dreams is KKK Took My Baby Away.
Yeah, that's the most notable song. She's a Sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit of I'd say it's a slightly deeper cut LP.
I think it's great. I think that one and Subterranean Jungle are excellent records that are like my cases in point for there's so much more beyond the first 4 Ramones records.
Beauty and the Beat by the Go-Go's would also be a really fun record to go through too, because the Go-Go's are very underrated, and as far as like musicianship and like songwriting, they're viewed as just kind of like kitschy 80s, not one hit wonders because they had a couple hits, but still viewed in that same vein.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they had hits across a couple of records, didn't they?
The first two had quite a few hits. Vacations on the second one.
Yeah.
The third one, maybe not as many, but I don't think they get respect. Well, they might now, because there was like that big documentary about them, and Belinda Carlisle's like punk roots are very well known at this point.
Punk cred.
Friends with
And
Darby
the solo Belinda
Craig.
Carlisle stuff is really good too for this first couple
Yeah.
records.
There's a lot to consider in 1981.
New Traditionalists, Devo's
Yeah.
best record.
That would be a really good one to do. I mean, I would love to even dig on that Joseph K record, The Only Fun in Town. Because Joseph K and like Orange Juice are bands that I'm like, I like everything I've heard, but I know nothing about them other than they're Scottish, you know. But even then, I would love to do that Joan Jett record, I Love Rock and Roll. Fucking first four Joan Jett records are all really fun records. They're just like, are they punk? Not musically, but in attitude, yes, Joan Jett's punk. Joan Jett's so punk.
Yeah, that's also a $1 bin record that I bought. I was like, yeah, I'll buy that. It's $1. It's good condition. And I put it on. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
She's so cool.
The first four records are so good. Doesn't she have... She had one came out last year. That's right. I never listened to that one, but...
She's got later stuff, too, that's pretty well respected.
Yeah, but otherwise, I think, you know, this is the classic case of the 80s falling off of a cliff once you get past the first top 50 albums or so. You're like, well, now what? So that's when we shifted our attention.
Yeah, you can talk about Party by Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
The possibly worst Iggy Pop record?
Is it?
Pretty far down there.
I'm sure there's something well disliked later on.
Maybe Beat 'Em Up. 2001 record. That one's pretty bad.
But let's talk about the actual album we're here to discuss. So we haven't done 1981 in about a year and a half, and I selected Signals, Calls, and Marches by Mission of Burma.
Once I had my heroes, once I had my dream, but all of that is changed now. Get the things inside out. Truth is not that comfortable, no. And mother taught us patience, the virtues of restraint. And Father taught us boundaries. The always we must go to find the secret promised us, yeah. That's when I reached for my revolver. That's when it all gets thrown away. That's when I reach for my revolver. The spirit fights to find its way.
Let's run down the stats. From Boston, Massachusetts, formed in 1979, released July 4th, 1981 on Ace of Hearts Records, which is a Boston-based record label. This is the band's first EP and follow-up to their debut single, Academy Fight Song, released in 1980. And the personnel on this album is Clint Conley on bass, vocals, and guitar, Peter Prescott on drums and vocals, Roger Miller on guitar and vocals, and Martin Swope on tape manipulation. And the album was produced by Richard W. Hart, who was I believe, the owner of Ace of Heart Records, which actually now makes so much more sense why the label is called what it is. Putting dots together. And for the sake of our discussion here today, we are talking about the version that's on Spotify, which is the Matador edition of the album, which takes the debut 7-inch and two previously unreleased tracks ahead of the actual EP, Signals. And the EP is only 6 songs, but I've also seen it called a mini album, and I think this counts as a mini album. It's like it was pressed on a 12-inch LP. It's not quite 30. It's not 30 minutes long, so it doesn't get like that distinction of what is it, 30 minutes or 10 tracks. Then you can call it an album. But in my brain, I still feel like it's an album. So mini album, I think, is a fair term. And I was trying to think of other mini albums we've done. We've done a couple, but yeah, it's been a minute. So what direction do we go in? Do we want to do some more background on the band, or do we want to go into personal?
Let's talk about the personal introduction and experiences with Mission of Burma, because I feel like that's probably, I have more to say on that than the story of the band, but I think we can get into that. I do want to say, though, before we dig in, how much I wish that this is what Boston hardcore sounded like.
Yeah, them being from Boston, that was a thing where I was like, that's right. Like, I think I knew that, but in, like, revisiting that information, I was like, oh yeah, that is right. It's so funny that this band and the Pixies and Lemonheads, they're all from Boston, but they don't really occupy that Boston hardcore lane. But yeah, it's very funny.
But I mean, the Boston area also includes Harvard, so
yeah.
I mean, isn't that where Galaxy 500 started?
There's a lot of bands actually from that area. Lowell, there's a lot of Lowell bands too.
Yeah,
a little further out. Oh, but like at the album, isn't Botch? Like even later on, you get into like Botch and ISIS and like a bunch of like the Hydra Head stuff. Converge, Cave In, Piebald.
Botch was from Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, that's right. They're just on Hydra Head. That's what I did there. Yeah. So I guess what really we're saying is Boston is pretty varied when it comes to music. But the people who claim Boston the hardest are the worst. This is Boston, not LA.
Yeah, I think the people that don't want to be associated with the typical Bostonite, they'll be like, oh, we're from Cambridge.
We're from Danvers. Yeah. Anyway, so I was trying to really remember my first exposure to Mission of Burma. I want to say they were one of those bands that I read about before I'd ever heard a single note from. Mission of Burma were constantly being referred to as this band's so important. But like you weren't hearing it really anywhere you went. And like a lot of the bands that you were listening to weren't super duper influenced by them, as far as at least this type of stuff that I was getting into. So it was like I had them in the same, I somehow picked them up along the way in the same little batch of briar patch that I went through, that I hooked Husker Du and Fugazi as bands that I knew the name of before I'd ever heard a single second of their songs. Like for some reason in my mind, I have like, I'm reading a Parade magazine or something that has all of these artists in it, or at least I read the back of a magazine that talked about the importance of Mission of Burma. And I just was like, it's one of those things where I was young enough that I could see the name like that and then just go file that away as important. It seems important, so I'm going to remember that going forward. So like there was a reverence put on them that a lot of punk bands didn't have. I remember even reading about Versus being like this masterpiece of an album before I ever heard any of it, before I'd heard anything at all. And I was probably in college the first time I actually like listened to anything by them. But I don't even know if I was like really hooked yet. And there's a really big chance that this version of the band is the first thing I ever heard. Probably got off a blog or something like that. One of those very important blogs to us that was like recommending stuff. It actually we kept listening to them after. So I probably listened to Signals for the first time in college, probably Versus too. I also seem to remember that they were more your band too than mine.
Yeah. My earliest memory of Mission of Burma is This Is Not a Photograph being burned to a CD with some other stuff that you got in college. And I want to say that CD also included a song from someone you knew in college's band prior to him going to college.
Would that be Wind Behind the Wall?
Yeah.
Wow. I was on the same disc. It was probably during that, like, I don't want to lose these. I don't want to waste a CD and not have enough songs on it. So then it would have been my, like, peer-to-peer music downloader that, like, I didn't know how to use and was just downloading songs instead of albums.
So you had, like, scattered, and I remember those two songs being on that CD together. I don't remember what else was on there. There could have been like a Misfits song. There could have been like I don't even know. It was definitely one that wasn't like, here's 3 Fugazi songs and here's 4 Gorilla Biscuits. It was like one song per artist from what I can remember.
Oh, so it was like a mix.
It was definitely a mix. And I can't remember who else was on it. I feel like I want to say maybe Hybrid Moments by the Misfits was on there. It was definitely one that I listened to a lot, though. It was because it was just a solid mix.
Yeah.
Of individual songs by individual artists, and I listened to it a lot. So I knew that song super well. Like that was the only Mission of Burma song I heard for a long time. And then I would just kind of like see their name in passing places and be like, oh yeah, I know who that is. I like This Is Not a Photograph.
I will say I do have a stronger when that song came on, I was like, yep, I had this on a burn CD. It was on a mix for sure. Like I remember it being on a mix. I don't remember it being on that mix. It probably was, but also it might have been on one of my other mixes I was making later when I was making more conscious selections. But yeah, I remember This Is Not a Photograph being one that I was like, I know this song when I got to it.
I have no idea if I have my CDs here. If I have them when I move this summer, I might try and go through some of my sentimental boxes and see if I have my CDs. I would be very curious to see if I have my book that would have had the burn CDs in it and see what's in there. That would be kind of fun to put some of those on and be like, what the fuck is this?
That's some live stream content.
If I find those, it's possible that they're at our parents' house.
Yeah.
It's also possible that the discs have rotted because
a lot of those burn CDs rotted.
CDs don't hold up. So my only point of contact with Mission of Burma for a really long time was that one song, it being on that mix and then just like being in the iTunes library forever. Mm-hmm. I want to say I downloaded Signals, Calls, and Marches in college, my sophomore year, and getting really into it and just like getting really into them and checking out verses and listening to the live album, Horrible Truth About Burma, and really, really appreciating them a lot in college and just kind of having them become one of my bands, like you said, but still not like not to the level of like a Husker Du or Minutemen or some of the other bands that we talk about a lot, but always a steady appreciation for Mission of Burma.
Yeah, I've listened to this EP a lot, and in the Mission of Burma discography is probably my favorite release. I mean, that being said, I have not listened to any comeback record the Mission of Burma has ever put out. They have 4 LPs, and I've never heard any of them. So really, there's one article I was reading talking about how there were 21 Mission of Burma songs that existed for everyone for years until 2002 when they finally came back. So like that's all that anyone had of this band to listen to, and so everyone just kind of was like, "Yep, these are the songs." You know, we have verses, you have signals, and we have the 7-inch. There's 2 7-inches. I don't remember what the other 7-inch was, but so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I guess you don't listen to them as much because there's not as much to listen to. There's lots of compilations. There are so many compilations and live recordings by them from this era, and I think it's purely just like the label keeping Mission of Burma alive. Ace of Hearts just keeping them alive and then getting them, you know, reissued and remastered throughout the years. So a little bit of their backstory leading up to this record. The band formed when Roger Miller and Clint Conley's previous band, Moving Parts, broke up. They started auditioning new drummers, and they said that the way they used to audition drummers is they would just like play Sun Ra jams for a really long time until the drummer left. And then they eventually found drummer Peter Prescott, who was of the band The Moles, Molls, and he knew Moving Parts before, so he was already like, he liked those guys. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we're a band now. They're a little 3-piece. And their name comes from a plaque that Clint saw in New York City from a diplomacy building. I guess maybe it was like I don't know, something that the country of Burma had representing them in New York. And so after that, they added Martin Swope into the band because they wanted something a little extra for their sound. And Martin was doing these tape manipulations because they knew him, and they're like, let's have him be part of the band. And then he was also their sound guy. He's like, because we needed a sound guy. It's like, I didn't realize though that many bands had their own sound guys back then, but I guess it's a thing.
Yeah, it would make sense if you're playing a large venue, like they're probably gonna have a sound guy, but it's also not unusual for a touring band to have a sound guy of their own. If you're playing a small venue, they might not have a sound guy.
Yeah.
Or you might not want the guy who does sound to be your sound guy.
Yeah.
He might not know what he's doing.
Yeah. So yeah, they start the band, they record the 7-inch, and then they go record the EP. Like, it was a pretty quick process. It wound up selling out 10,000 copies in its first year, which is so many copies. And yeah, they were kind of known for their chaotic and inconsistent live performances. Like, they were a very loud and noisy band, and because of the nature of tape manipulation, I still don't fully understand what it is. I know what is happening live is that Martin is somehow taking either a guitar sound or a vocal sound into his device that then just like starts making it sound weird. And it's like, you never knew what the sound was going to sound like by doing that.
He would like, from what it's one of those things that like, I wish that they could have captured it on record, because I feel like they really don't. And it's been a really long time since I listened to the live record, so I should go back and do that, but to see if it really comes across what he was doing. But from what I understand, I would assume he just has like a tape out from the mixer, that he's then just like taping what they're playing, and then probably has like a record playback heads on it, and he can record and playback at the same time. So then you can essentially have like a delayed signal. But he would probably speed the tape up or slow it. I mean, more often slowing it down, because that's, if you're capturing it and playing it back in real time, you would probably want to drag it first to slow it down. So then you get like flanging and comb filtering, and you get this like, weird stuff that pulls the signal down, and then probably letting go, and then it like catches up, and so you then have like a lurch of a speeding up tape. And but he would do stuff where he would reverse tape, so I guess he would then like record part of it and then flip the reels around and then play it in reverse, and he would make tape loops. So he would like, I guess he was like cutting tape and splicing it on the fly. And I don't know that I'd like to find some footage of that to see what he was like actually doing. But
what is interesting too is like, they said that a lot of times people in the crowds were like, how did y'all get that sound out of your guitar? Because everybody just assumed it was like the guitar making the sounds on the on performances. And it's because Martin wasn't on stage. He was back at the sound booth, and that's where he was doing all his manipulation from. So most people didn't even know he existed. Like, he wasn't even like, it was just the three of them on the stage. So like, they weren't even aware that there was this fourth guy doing something to add to the sound. And they said because just because you never knew what was going to come out of the tape manipulation, sometimes it will be horrible and just like unlistenable.
With feedback, yeah. If you turn the tape in level too high, but then that's feeding into the tape, and then you get your feedback loops, or the reverse tape doesn't work. Right, it sounds awful. Or it's a wild idea. It's such a cool way of bringing a random experimental element. It's taking your tape, which we were just making fun of tape music. It's taking that and putting it in the context of songs and having it be interesting, instead of it just being like, here's a snippet of a guitar that I played 40 times in a row.
Yeah, it's more of combining that with what the band was doing, which is live was messy, because once you get in the studio, they chalk their sound up very much to their producer. They're like, yeah, he's the reason why those records sound so clean and like layered and just very tight, because he was like, no, you got to do something else in the studio. You can't just do that on record, because it's not going to be fun to listen to. So what you get is these impeccable post-punk songs that are so fucking good. And when people would come see them live, they would be horrified at just like what it actually sounded like live. They were just like, you know, like they have like this story they tell of like a woman coming up to them right before their show and be like, oh, I love Revolver. It's like one of my favorite songs ever. He's like, awesome. And they go play, and no one, like, they play Revolver and people are just standing completely still. Like their backs against the wall. They're just like, what is it? What is this? They were just shocked at how it sounded.
They were, insanely loud by all accounts.
Yeah, including their guitars.
Yeah,
we'll talk about.
Ultimately why they broke up.
Yeah, too loud. Turns out, but so let's talk about the actual EP. It is 6 tracks long. How did you when you were listening to this? How did you listen to it? Did you just listen to it from front to back based on the Spotify?
For this episode, yes. I want to say the first time I listened to it, I had the EP version of it, so the 20 minutes, the original 6 songs.
I think I had the first time I ever heard it was probably the Ryko disc version, which is it's the EP first and then the single at the end.
Yeah, that's probably what I listened originally.
For the sake of discussion, let's talk about the actual EP first, and then we'll loop it around. I prefer the Ryko disc approach to the Matador approach of just going chronological, because I think it's called Signals, Calls, and Marches. Like, it should be Signals, Calls, and Marches first, and then you can listen to the singles. But so I actually, when I listened to it, listened to the EP first and then listened to the bonus. I listened to all the bonus stuff anyway, just because I think it's worth talking about. So yeah, it's 6 tracks. That's When I Reached for My Revolver, Outlaw, Fame and Fortune, This Is Not a Photograph, Red, and All World Cowboy Romance. And this album has what I consider 2 top tier tunes, like 2 of the greatest songs ever written, period, with Revolver and Photograph. And then the rest are just all amazing songs. Like, just really, these 6 songs are incredible. Like, all 6 songs I love on this record. Fantastic, amazing, just songwriting and performances, and A+ 5-star album, EP, easy. Like, I know we usually give ratings at the end, but it's a 5-star record for me, for sure.
Yeah, this is a perfect EP. One of the best punk EPs of all time. Possibly the best punk EP of all time.
Wow.
Listening to this, that got me thinking. I was like, oh man, what are the truly like perfect best all-time punk EPs? And a lot of them are concentrated in the early 80s because people punks had limited means. They didn't have a lot of studio time. They recorded what they could. So you have like a bunch of great Men and Men EPs. You have the classic Minor Threat EPs. You have Metal Circus by Husker Du, incredible EP, almost an album in its own right. Which, Signals, Calls, and Marches is like, it really is almost an album, and it's 20 minutes long. So it's a substantial EP. Mini album is a really good description for it. And because the songs are so cohesive, they flow into each other perfectly. It's incredibly sequenced.
Oh, yeah. Sequencing is crucial, and they nailed it on here.
Because it starts with such an insanely good song, and then it goes a little out there and it's sloppy and choppy, and but it's got a lot of energy. And then that's When I Reached for My Revolver. This Is Not a Photograph. Absolute 5-star all-time song. Fame and Fortune, though. Fame and Fortune is a stupid game. But Fame and Fortune is the game I play. It's classic. It is an earworm. It's one of the best like deep cut earworms I can think of all time. So throw that in there. Red is great.
I was going to say weird, like
kind of underrated.
I think the 2 worst songs on here are still incredible songs. Like Red and Outlaw, I think are maybe the 2 weakest songs on here, and they're fucking awesome. Like,
right, because Outlaw is like this American Gang of Four. Like,
yeah, it's very like mechanical. It was one of those songs where I was like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here. Like, I hear some Devo in here. I hear some Minutemen in here, you know.
Yeah, it's like industrialized funk. It's fun and weird and different, and
It's got a
it's
little,
not
like,
the anthemic staple songs, but it's killer.
It's got a little bit of that Ex-Lion Tamer feel to it. The Pink
Mhm.
the Pink Flag track, you know, very Wire, very Pink Flag. And yeah, Red is just like this. It's kind of got this mid pace start to it, but it's got like oohs, which are very funny. There's oohs on here. I think the tape loops are very prominent on here too.
You get the ooh, ooh instrumental, like it's almost like a Cars lick in this like post-punk song.
Mm-hmm. And they ended it with All World Cowboy Romance, which is like, oh, did you invent post-rock?
Yeah.
Because it is like this post-apocalyptic Western feel to it.
It's like a punk Pink Floyd, kind of song.
It's funny. I read something that the band said that there was a UK label who wanted to put out this EP, but would only do it if they would dress up like cowboys for the album art because of Revolver, Outlaw, and All World Cowboy Romance. Like they were like, it's a cowboy band.
This
We're
is
gonna
a
make you
cowpunk band.
They're like, we're not. That's not what we are. It's just coincidentally those three things are on there. Because Outlaw doesn't sound like a Western song at all. It sounds like a UK post-punk song. You know, it was just very funny that they're like, we'll put it out if you dress like cowboys for the album art or promotional materials. Like, what? UK is all about like gimmicky like costumes though. New Romantics, Adam and the Ants, pirate cavalry outfits that they're wearing. Yeah, I listened to it and I'm like, this is good. This is A+ material from front to back. Like, I'm amazed at these songs and how good they are. That's when I reach for my Revolver is one of the greatest songs ever written, and it has this. There's a build up. There's like a crescendo to this song. Like because it starts off with it's just the bass only intro, and his singing is very like almost lower register, like kind of talk singing even, and it as the song is going it's just escalating as it goes, and then it like peaks at the incredible chorus. Just like, this is a song that's been covered a million times, and at one point Dylan and I we were trying to get our band to cover it too.
Yeah,
I think we got close. Like, he was like, this song's good, our guitar player, but I don't think we were very like practicing a lot at that point.
Yeah, I don't think we ever tried to actually play it.
Yeah.
We tried to play a Fugazi song.
Yeah, we tried to do Waiting Room.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And they
tough
couldn't
song to play too. I mean, I was the bass player, so
Yeah.
I'm like, that's on me, guys. I'm not an actual bass player, and this is written by a real bass player.
Yeah. This is one of the like staple bass riff, he's playing all four strings on here.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this isn't root E? Oh no. I still want to be in a band that covers that's when I reach for my Revolver.
You're gonna have to learn how to play the bass though, because it's really good bass playing on this in this band too.
Yeah. It is very funny that Clint Conley he's not the main songwriter in the band. Roger Miller has more writing credits than Clint does, but Clint has Revolver. And does he have Academy Fight Song too? I think he does. I think he has like the most well-known songs in the band.
Mission of Burma have one of the most interesting sounds of a band, because no one in the band is really incredible. I would say the bass playing is maybe the most technically proficient
Yeah.
part of the band, but the guitar playing is like, it's not hard, it's not easy to play. It's definitely like they're doing what Bob Mould does is of like, the full chords. They're doing these fully voiced chords, and they're dense, and they can be easy to make mistakes on. It's not just like playing power chords, but like they're not spectacular either. They're like, the sloppiness shows a little bit, and like they're not shredding or anything, which, this is the kind of band that would do that. But the vocals aren't really, I hesitate to even say that they're good. They are vocals that I really think, and this is part of what makes them great, that anyone can do. They are barely shouted. They're like, hey, like you're yelling across the room, shouted. Like, anyone could do this. You're not really going to hurt your voice doing it. You don't have to put a bunch of grit into it. You're not like Henry Rollins where you're like, you're like, you're just a guy who's kind of yelling. None of the melodies are that complicated, but they're so memorable.
Mm-hmm.
I think they work in a way that, like, and maybe this is just the influence of the cowboy references. They do work like a honky tonk vocalist. They're everyman vocals. Like, anyone can get up there and do it, but it's getting up there and doing it that is like the impressive part. So it's kind of like democratic, but also like they have the guts to just go sing the song in this unvarnished way, and it's so impressive for doing that. And also, the idea is the important part. Definitely a really good case in point for that idea, that the execution can be good, can be important, but if you have a really good idea, you don't have to execute it that well for it to be really impactful. And I think they're incredibly impactful. And I think they're almost made better by being so simplistic in their delivery. And I think everything in the band really comes together in that way. The production is not that complex. A lot of the stuff that they recorded it live all together with minimal to no overdubs.
Yeah, a lot of Verses is recorded live in the studio.
Yeah, which makes Verses even more impressive, because you're like, how the fuck are they getting these sound effects to happen live? But it's a lot like the Minutemen too. Like, I think there's a lot of similarities to the Minutemen of being able to just capture something imperfectly, but have it be such a like good idea, and delivering it passionately to have it be really effective, and have it be better by being imperfect.
Yeah, the Minutemen to me are the most in common band.
Yeah.
In the U.S. at least, with Mission of Burma. The biggest difference being like Minutemen output far exceeded the amount, and they had a different approach to it. Whereas like Minutemen definitely were like, we're part of the hardcore scene, like that was definitely their thing. Mission of Burma was more interested in the punk side of things. They weren't so much like, they weren't SSD control guys, but they were definitely more into like UK punk type stuff. And Minutemen, do the Minutemen mention Mission of Burma ever? Are they in a History of Part 2 reference? I don't think they are.
No, because they talks about Richard Hell and the Voidoids
and the Clash. Yeah, maybe not. I feel like Minutemen listened to Mission of Burma though. Like they would have heard it. 10,000 copies sold in a year is pretty good. So there's a high chance that the copies made it to the West Coast pretty easily. I'm
sure you could find Watt talking about Mission of Burma at some point, especially having, such a great bass player in a punk band in the early 80s. Watt's gonna hear him. Yeah. Whereas the Minutemen eventually they became virtuosos. I feel like Mission of Burma weren't really like virtuistic, They, though, their material that they would do post Mission of Burma was a lot more experimental, because they never stopped. Like most of them never stopped. Clint's the one who like actually quit music, but everybody else like kept making music. Even Roger, who had to quit because of his hearing, he just made softer music. Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely commonality there. I mean, that could just be maybe they're just all into Wire, and that's really what it is, because all the UK hardcore guys loved Wire's Pink Flag. We could talk about the other 4 songs on here, though. So the version on Matador also includes a single Academy fight song
as an B side Max Ernst, as well as 2 previously unreleased tracks, Devotion and Execution. All 4 of them are from 1980, and that's why they get put on the CD before you get to the EP, which I listened to it, I think, through in that. Did I listen to it in that order? Maybe not. No, because I did the EP first. Both times I listened to it. It kind of works, though. It still works. Academy Fight Song is like the number 2 song in the Mission of Burma discography. It's like the second best song in their discography, which is also another top tier, one of the greatest punk songs ever written. So really, in a span of 2 years, they have written 3 of the greatest punk songs ever. Academy Fight Song is incredible. That song is so good too. Max Ernst is a really, really good song, but clearly it's kind of like the B-side. It's not necessarily the best. And then Devotion and Execution, I'm like, why were these unreleased? I mean, I guess just because no one wanted to put them out yet, I feel like. I don't know. Most of the stuff came out on Ace of Hearts, so maybe just didn't get around to it. But those 2 songs, I was just like, wow, these songs are really great too. And I feel like they probably could have just thrown them in the recording session with Signals, but also maybe not, because they do feel a little different.
Devotion and Execution are both pretty consistently driving songs, and neither one of them has like a really big hook or anything. They have interesting elements in the guitar playing, and yeah, they don't stand out quite the way that Academy Fight Song and Max Ernst, as far as like the singles, the additional material go. But Devotion and Execution, if you added them to Signals, I don't think it would be hard to fit them in there. I feel like you could kind of throw like That's When I Reached for My Revolver, Outlaw, Devotion, Fame and Fortune, This Is Not a Photograph, Execution, Red, All World. You could get them in there and have them work really well. And I think so in terms of sequencing this collection, I don't mind the chronological order, even though it is called Signals, Calls and Marches. It should probably just be Signals, Calls and Marches first, but the traditional way to add on bonus material is to stick it at the end.
Yeah.
But the chronological order works. I think it does work because of how well it starts, because Academy Fight Song is such an incredible song on its own and does feel very much like it's a Signals, Calls and Marches song. It also helps me to appreciate Max Ernst and Devotion and Execution more by having them not be bonus tracks tacked on to the end, because they're probably the weaker songs of the whole collection, but sandwiching them in between all-time incredible songs helps them a lot.
Yeah, I guess there's a piece of your brain that's like, all right, and now this is just extra whenever you put it at the end, and that's the end of the album, like all those Ramones CDs with like a shitload of bonus tracks at the end, where you're just like, and the rest. The album ended 5 tracks ago. So yeah, it kind of makes sense, I guess. Yeah, because you're right, because like Devotion and Execution wouldn't be as appreciated, I don't think. And plus, once you hit Revolver, you're like, oh yeah, here we go. Now it begins.
Strap in. Taking off.
What do the reissue vinyl versions look like? Do they put the bonus tracks on there at all?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. They should, because where else are you going to get them?
They fit. It's together. It's only 33 minutes, and you can put up to 40 minutes, like not quite 40.
Well, depending on how much you want to sacrifice sound quality, you can fit more than 40 minutes.
I mean, you can, yes, but yeah. Then you start compressing. The version released by Matador in 2010 starts with Signals and ends with the bonus tracks.
Yeah.
Where's the album flip at?
Splits on... Oh, it's literally the original EP is all on the A side. Yeah.
Wild. What's the original LP? How does it break it down? It splits on Fame and Fortune. That works, actually. That is structured really well, actually. A side is Revolver, Outlaw, and Fame and Fortune. B side is Photograph, Red, and All World Cowboy Romance. That actually really works. You've just made... They put the weakest song in the middle of both sides.
Yeah.
You've sandwiched it.
Well, and you get kind of like a more concentrated punk record on one side, and then you get a little bit more of a little more oblique kind of like arty record on the B side.
Yeah. But if I was going to include all the songs, that do the EP first, then do the bonus on vinyl. Because why not? You're not gonna flip the record. Maybe if you're like me and you just leave a record on a turntable for a really long time and just keep starting that same side over again. So historically, to me, Mission of Burma have been more noticed as like, oh my God, Mission of Burma, this amazing band that existed for just a short period of time, because they had to actually call it a day in 1983 because Roger Miller's had a super bad case of tinnitus that it was just getting incredibly painful for him. So they did a final tour where he wore headphones for a gun range specifically. But interestingly, he had played in some bands because he's originally from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and his hearing damage started then. He was already in pain then. Then he started playing in a punk scene in Boston, and a band famous for playing incredibly loud, and just wrecked it from there then on out. And then they were just like, it's too hard to do this. And so they finally did call it a day. And that's when the Public Image Limited thing happened. Like, it was one of their last shows, and they wouldn't let them use the PA and kicked them off the stage early. And so their legacy became this, not quite a what if scenario, but it definitely was they came, they released 21 amazing songs, and then they left. Like, they're done. That excludes the fact that both Roger Miller continued writing and performing music throughout the entirety of the 90s. But it was like softer stuff, score stuff, some piano type stuff. And yeah, none of it really, I don't think you would really call anything they did after that punk until the reunion. But so the legacy then became, they were like this, like, oh, this band is legendary. They were so good. They were the Spin magazine talks about them. The record collector guy talks about Mission of Burma.
This guy in a pork pie hat keeps trying to sell me a Mission of Burma.
Yeah. And so I think throughout the 90s and early 2000s, they became like associated with Husker Du and Fugazi as like essential artists by the music critics of the world. Did that maintain for the next generation? Do you feel like people our age and younger really care about Mission of Burma at all?
No, not younger.
No. Is it because they came back?
Maybe. That has some impact. They did come back. I did listen to The Sound of the Speed and the Light probably when it came out, which probably helped tip my interest in them. I think of when I think of people I know who like Mission of Burma, it's John Russell from Gnawing.
Yeah.
He's like the guy I can be like, I'm listening to verses and then text him and be like, how the fuck did they get the guitars to sound like that?
Yeah, I was literally thinking of like, who do I know that likes Mission of Burma? And I was like, John Russell of Gnawing. That's really it. Like, as far as I know, that for sure. There's
probably Josh from.
Yeah, I'd say Josh probably is a Mission of Burma fan. It's a very small pool, because I actually did ask the Discord. I was like, hey, in here, anybody like them? And then kind of got crickets. I mean, I got like, never listened to them, or I like that one song. They're a good band. Like, that's really kind of it. Like, no, they weren't like, they didn't seem super important to anybody in the Discord. So I think it's just this like case of like, they were super important.
But I think it's interesting to note the ways that they are important, because you can find that immediate impact potentially on like your Minutemen, your, Husker Du even.
There was the Boston post-punk band, The Proletariat.
Yeah.
The same time period as Mission of Burma. They ran a little longer.
You can definitely, I feel like you can definitely see their impact on like the rest of the Midwest stuff. Your Husker Du, Naked Ray Gun.
Yeah.
It definitely carries into, Peg Boy covers. Revolver, D4 certainly are Mission of Burma listeners at some point, So you get that through line into like some other like more out there 80s hardcore stuff, into punk, into like the Midwest punk, and into like even like your orgcore, which is where it probably tapers out in terms of like the major cultural impact. Past a Hot Water Music fan, there's not a lot of people that are like big Mission of Burma heads, unless you're going from the other route of being like the Sonic Youth influence. the noise
Sonic
rock
Youth.
influence.
The Pixies were clearly inspired by Mission of Burma. Superchunk cites Mission of Burma as a big influence on them. And I do on the song, which song is it? On Red?
Oh yeah.
That kind of gave me like a No Pocky for Kitty era Superchunk vibe. I was like, oh, they like this song. Like that earlier Superchunk where there's like a harder edge to it.
Well, even like into kind of the way the songs are like the way Jim Wilbur's guitar lines play these like counterpoints act very similar to how the bass lines in Mission of Burma songs work. Because the guitars are very like chordal driving, like it's fairly straightforward, harmonic, like this is carrying the harmony of the song. But then the bass is like, yeah, it's doing the counterpoint. It's giving you the movement. It's giving you the other directions and almost their own melodies in like a Peter Hook New Order way of like there's an additional melodic element happening in the band other than the vocalist. And I feel like Jim Wilbur's doing that kind of thing.
Mm.
I mean, and even Lara Balance, I feel like her bass work stands on its independent from what Mac's doing. So Superchunk just kind of like splits it into multiple parts. But
yeah, I'd be interested. There's also not like, I feel like most US post-punk bands are more influenced by the UK than any American post-punk band. Or if they are influenced by anything American, they tend to be the more Sonic Youth, Pixies inspired thing, which is its own separate style, really. I don't know too many bands who are like, oh yeah, my big influences are Mission of Burma and the Minutemen today, you know? That because like Minutemen, especially because they have such a singular sound that like if you're doing it, you're doing a Minutemen thing on purpose. But also nobody knows how to play like D-Boon.
I mean, it's one funk riff. And it's not that hard, but yeah. Turning that one funk riff into unique songs is the trick.
Yeah, so like the band would do, they would stop in 83. A lot of them would have other projects. Clint would produce the very first Yo La Tengo record, which is very funny, and then quit the music business to go be a producer for a Boston-based news magazine TV show.
Did he do Ride the Tiger?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and then quit music until they reunited in 2002. They were not able to get Martin Swope back because he was living in Hawaii.
Yeah. They said he fell off the face of the earth and moved to Hawaii.
And he declined. Like I think they got in touch with him, but like he still declined to like come back. So they got Bob Weston of Shellac, and they're like, you can use like digital stuff if you want to. And he's like, no, I want to keep it in the spirit and actually use like the analog tape delay type stuff. So he replaced them in the band, and then they released 4 full-length albums, none of which I've heard. Do they sound that much like themselves? My fear has always been they don't really sound like Mission of Burma anymore.
It's been a really, really long time since I've listened to any of it. I want to say 2009, 2010 maybe was the last time I listened to any of that stuff. And I remember really liking the Sound, the Speed, and the Light, which is not, I think Unsound is considered the weakest of the 4, and the Obliterati being the best, but it sounded like them.
Okay. That was my problem with the Buzzcocks reunion, is like they didn't sound the same anymore. Mainly, I think that's just age on Pete Shelley's voice. Just can't quite hit those notes anymore. And then as of 2020, they've actually called it quits. Their last show was in 2016, and then they had no plans to do anything else. And then COVID happens, and I think they were just like, yeah, we're done. We did what we wanted to do.
Yeah, we came back and did more music than we did in the initial influential run. So
I guess there's just still something magical about those 21 original songs, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is an amazing, very efficient run.
Yeah,
an EP, a single, and an album.
Yeah,
and they didn't even technically finish the album because they ran out of tape.
Well, I think we've said everything we have to say about this record. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars earlier, so we don't really have to reiterate that point. But if you've never listened to it, go listen to it. Like, the album's 33 minutes on Spotify. The EP itself is like 20 minutes. Like, it's a breeze to get through. Revolver's amazing. Like, you'll get something out of it. People love Academy Fight Song. Like, so even if you only take away those 2 songs, which I think you'll be happy with the rest of the material as well too. Like those aren't the only 2 good songs. So go listen to Mission of Burma. We need more new Mission of Burma-esque bands in.
Oh man, I wish.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. But yeah, I think that'll do it for us. Thank you all so much for listening. Love to get a new rating or a review from you over on the iTunes and the Spotify's. We're pretty stagnant over there. We haven't had a new review in iTunes in over a year, so come on, give us something. Only positive though. I don't want a negative review.
No negative reviews.
Keep it to yourself. But that'll do it for us. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you next time.
To order Punk, call the number on your screen. Rush delivery is available. Remember, this special offer is not sold in stores.